is now sitting in the canteen with Lena and Minho, while Lena and Minho are staring at Wine, who was slightly looking down at her lunch and not eating anything. Ush, Wine. Wine looked at Lena. What happened to you? After Mr. Jones' class, you are all silent. I do not know, but I am feeling something heavy on my chest. Why? Because he scolded you? Wine shook her head. Like he said, I will give my place to others. That's hurting me. Is he really thinking I will give my place in his life to others? Lena and Minho looked at each other with raised eyebrows, then smiled. Your place in his life? What place do you have in his life? One shook her head. I do not know, but I really do not know what I am even thinking. Like he is making me crazy. Let out a big sigh. I think you are in love. Huh? Oh my god, congratulations on your first love. One just looked at her friend with a dawn face. Have your lunch. Her eyes searched for Jungkook but disappointedly looked down on not seeing Jungkook anywhere. It's already night, and Wine is now sitting in the living room while watching TV. But she is lost in her thoughts about Jungkook. She is really not feeling well. She feels something missing and empty not seeing Jungkook anywhere after his class. Also, Jungkook didn't give her chocolate today. He must be mad at me. That's why he didn't show up in front of me and didn't give me chocolate. She sadly leaned back on the sofa. Why God, I am feeling sad, whined loudly with her heavy heart but went to open the door, hearing the doorbell. But she was surprised to see Jungkook standing there when she opened the door. Jungkook is wearing a black t-shirt revealing his tattooed arm with black cargo pants, looking more young and hot in this dressing style. While Jungkook was also surprised to see Wine only wearing shorts with a white t-shirt that was only reaching her mid-thigh, revealing her milky thighs and slim legs. Both were looking at each other but closed their eyes when they come back to reality and looked at each other's face. Sir, you are here? Yeah, forwarded a chocolate towards Wine, who smiled a little while looking at the chocolate, then took it. Jungkook felt something in his heart seeing that smile on Wine's lips for him. I was busy with the college meeting after my class, so I couldn't meet you and give you this. Wine looked up at Jungkook. Oh, I thought you were mad at me. I was a little, but not anymore. Wine nodded her head. I do not like seeing tears in your eyes. Huh? It really hurt seeing the teary eyes of yours in the morning, so do not make me hurt anymore. Wine felt something in her heart as well hearing Jungkook, but nodded her head while Jungkook smiled a little. Wine was surprised seeing that smile on Jungkook's face for the first time, but she really loved it. It made her cold professor look so soft, and a smile also formed on Wine's lips. So, you are here alone. Where are your parents? One smile diminished. I am living alone and my parents apart like my parents. Wine shook her head. I actually do not know where they are and do not even know if they are alive or not. Jungkook looked confused. I grew up in an orphanage and I am an orphan. Smiled a little while Jungkook felt bad but nodded his head. I wanted to ask you more but now it's already late, so go to bed and sleep well. Patted Wine's head, who felt something warm in her heart because of the small action of Jungkook, and nodded her head while Jungkook walked away. One stared at Jungkook walking back with an unknown emotion. Jungkook also stopped, then looked at Wine before entering his house and raised his eyebrows, seeing Wine still standing outside while staring at him. So he signaled Wine to go inside with his hands. She smiled and then nodded her head before going inside, while Jungkook smiled and went inside his house. Next day, Jungkook entered the class and looked for wine, like usual, but not seeing wine in the front bench, he looked at the last bench but raised his eyebrows, not seeing wine there as well. Jungkook, Lena? Lena stood up from her seat. Yes, sir. Where is wine? Minho and Lena smiled a little. She took a half-day leave because she went to the hospital with her neighbor. Jungkook nodded his head. Sit down, said to Lena, who sat on her seat. Neighbor? Who? Her boyfriend. Chuckled to herself and other also laughed. But everyone stopped when Jungkook looked at them with a blank face. So, it's her personal life, so don't interfere. Jungkook looked at Minho with raised eyebrows. Like, did Wine really have a boyfriend? No, right? The question started roaming in his mind, but he let out a sigh. Silence, said while banging on the desk, and the whole class became silent while Jungkook went to take the class. Lena. Why did you say that? Mr. Jun must be confused about Wine dating someone. Minho. Let him, and that's what I want. So we can get to know what's in Mr. Jun's heart for our Wine. Lena smiled and nodded her head, while Jungkook didn't even look big during the whole class, and Lena and Minho noticed it. In lunch break in the canteen, Jungkook walked toward the table where Lena and Minho were sitting while they also looked at Jungkook when he stood in front of them. Lena, Mr. Jun, is Wine dating someone? Lena and Minho looked at each other and smiled. Minho, I think yes. Jungkook felt something heavy on his chest and was about to go from there but stopped when Wine, when? Who is that person? Three of them looked at Wine, who was standing behind them, while Lena and Minho fake smiled. Minho, I was kidding, said when Wine glared at him. Lena, Mr. Jun, he was just messing around, and our best friend is such an idiot who has not even found her first love until now. Finally, Jungkook felt revealed, and the heavy feeling in his chest was replaced with happiness, knowing Wine had never dated anyone in her life. Sir, do not trust these two, especially this one, said while coming to them and pointed at Minho, while Jungkook nodded his head. With whom did you go to the hospital? Oh, it's Mio. He has a high fever. Jungkook smiled a little. Of course he knows Mio, and Wine raised her eyebrow, seeing the smile. Why are you smiling? Jungkook put on his blank face. Me? When? Come on, have your lunch. Saying that, he patted Wine's head before walking away, while Wine smiled a little, then sat down in her seat. What? Lena, come on, have your lunch. Patted Wine's head and Minho chuckled, while Wine pushed Lena's head. Ush, stop it. Tell us the truth. What? Didn't you already fall in love with Mr. Jun? Lower your voice, idiot. Lena covered her mouth. Minho, tell us. Wine let out a sigh, then looked at her best friends. I definitely feel something special and different for him, but I do not know if this is love. Minho, did you miss him in the morning? Honestly, I was only thinking about him. Lena, you usually do not come to college when you take leave, but today you only took half a day leave. Why? I do not know, but I feel something missing in me not seeing Mr. Jun from the morning. Also, his face kept coming into my mind, so I wanted to come and see him. Lena and Minho smirked a little. Minho, Wine? Lena, you have already started falling in love with our handsome professor. Am I? Lena and Minho nodded their heads while Wine smiled. It's already evening, and Wine was walking through the hallway with her friends, but a small smile formed on her lips seeing Jungkook walking toward them. Lena, oh Mr. Jun, bowed a little when Jungkook stood in front of them, while Minho and Wine smiled at Jungkook, who returned a small smile to Minho, then looked at Wine. He was about to say something, but the four of them confusedly looked at Riya when she stood in front of them. Riya, Mr. Jun, sweetly called, and Jungkook nodded his head. Riya, can you help me with this topic? Actually, I didn't understand this fully. Wine glared at her while Jungkook nodded his head. I will explain this tomorrow in class. Wine smiled a little after hearing that. Riya, huh? But sir, it's only me who didn't get it, so it will be easier for you to explain to me only. Jungkook let out a sigh. Wine, Mr. Jun, I also didn't get this topic, so please explain it to me as well. Jungkook looked at Wine and bit his lips from smiling, seeing the way Wine was glaring at Riya, while Riya also looked at Wine with a death glare. Wine showed her a fake smile. Lena, did you get this topic? Lena nodded her head, but immediately shook her head when Minho held her hand. Lena, I also didn't get it. Minho, me too, Mr. June. What supportive friends. Jungkook thought and chuckled a little. I will explain in the next class then. Riya clenched her jaw and looked at Jungkook. Riya, can you give me your phone number so I can call you to clear my any problem about study? Wine, he does not have a phone, she said with a blank face while Lena and Minho chuckled. Understanding their friend was really jealous. Jungkook also looked at Wine with a small smile. Riya, how do you know that? Wine, I know. Riya let out a sigh. Riya, sir, can you? JK, didn't she say I do not have a phone? Wine looked at Jungkook while Lena and Minho looked at each other with raised eyebrows and nodded their heads in understanding. Riya, oh, then I am leaving. See you tomorrow. Was about to go but stopped seeing a chocolate in Jungkook's hand. Chocolate? Someone gave you this? Can you give it to me? It's my favorite chocolate. Gave her puppy eyes to Jungkook, who was about to say something, but Wine took that chocolate from Jungkook's hand. It's mine, said that. She looked at Riya and then faked smiled at her. Wine walked from there after glancing at Jungkook for the last time, who didn't expect that, but smiled, and Lena and Minho also followed Wine. Riya, why did you let that girl take the chocolate? JK, that actually belonged to her, so, she said while only staring at Wine walking back. Riya, did she give that chocolate to you? Why did you take that from her? Jungkook was not hearing anything, just watching Wine walking back with loving eyes, but finally looked at Riya when Wine disappeared from his sight. JK, I will clear your doubt in the next class, and excuse me, walked from there while Riya clenched her fist angrily yet feeling jealous. Next day, Wine entered the teacher's room while looking at her book, but closed her eyes when she bumped into someone, and her book fell down on the floor. She looked at the person and seeing Jungkook standing there with a done face. Wine showed her full teeth and Jungkook shook his head, then took the book from the floor and handed it to Wine. Wine, I'm sorry. JK, didn't I say you walk while looking in front of you? What if you bump into someone else and fell down? I'm worried, so please understand, said with a blank face. A small smile formed on Wine's lips, understanding Jungkook was worried for her. Wine, promise, I will never walk like this again. Jungkook let out a sigh, then patted Wine's head. JK, why are you here? Wine, I want to meet Mr. Kai, math professor. JK, he is not here. He went to the principal room. Wine, oh, then I will leave. Was about to go, but Jungkook held her hand, while Wine's heart skipped a beat, and Jungkook immediately let go of that soft hand while Wine looked at him. JK, why do you need to meet him? Wine, I couldn't solve two problems he gave us, so I wanted to clear my doubt. JK, I will help you come. Saying that, he walked inside and Wine also followed him, but looked around, not seeing anyone there. Wine, where is everyone? JK, they went to their classes, and I was also about to go, but you came. Wine, oh, then it's completely fine, Mr. John. You can go, I will come. JK, come, sit. He already sat on the chair and patted the chair beside him, while Wine nodded her head. then went to Jungkook and sat beside him. JK, which problems? Wine placed her note on the table, then showed Jungkook the maths problem. Jungkook nodded his head and started explaining, leaning toward Wine, while Wine also listened to everything with full concentration and smiled when she finally understood how to solve the math problems. Wine, wow, you are also good at math as well. Looked at Jungkook, but her breath stopped for a second, finding Jungkook's face so close to hers. Jungkook also turned his face to Wine, and his heart skipped as well, seeing Wine's face this close, their noses almost touching, while both hearts started beating really fast, and their eyes got lost in each other's. Jungkook started leaning more when his eyes fell on those soft lips of Wine, and Wine also closed her eyes when Jungkook's hot breath touched her lips. Jungkook was about to attach his lips to the soft lips of Wine, but Wine backed away immediately when the realization hit her, and Jungkook also closed his eyes tightly, feeling a little embarrassed. Wine, I should go. She stuttered a little while standing up from their chair immediately and literally leaned from there. Jungkook also gulped down and leaned back to the chair, but a smile formed on his lips. JK, control yourself, man, scratched his neck while he could still feel his heart beating crazily. At night, Wine is now sitting in the living room while eating the chocolate Jungkook gave her today, but she closed her eyes tightly, remembering the incidents that happened in the teachers' rooms. Wine, that was so close, shook her head while patting her heart because it was beating crazily just by remembering those moments. Wine, how could I face him now? Let out a big sigh and looked at the doorway upon hearing the doorbell, but felt a little surprised and nervous all of a sudden, seeing Jungkook standing there. Calm down, you stupid hut, he will hear you. Wine took a deep breath and smiled a little at Jungkook with all her courage, who also smiled at her. JK, you forgot your math notebook in the teacher's room. Shot the book while Wine nodded her head. Wine, oh, thank you, sir, took the book from Jungkook's hand. JK, I already solved the two problems for you. Wine's eyes sparkled. Wine, what? Really? Excited all of a sudden, and Jungkook smiled, seeing that, while nodded his head. Wine, thank you so much, bowed to Jungkook and showed her bright smile. Jungkook patted Wine's head. JK, only thank you? Raised his eyebrows. Wine, what do you want? I will give you. JK, you sure you will give me? Wine raised her eyebrows but nodded her head. Wine, of course. You solved my math problems, so I will give you whatever you want. She was still so excited. That's why she didn't get what Jungkook wanted. JK, okay, then give me a kiss. Wine stopped smiling and her heart skipped a beat hearing Jungkook. Wine, I think I heard something wrong, smiled, but her smile vanished again when Jungkook said, JK, no, you hear right. Wine, JK, give me a kiss here, pointed at his cheek while Wine's heart started beating like a bullet train, but she didn't say anything, just stared at Jungkook while clenching the book tightly. Jungkook smiled a little, seeing the nervousness in Wine. JK, okay, I was just kidding. I do not want anything. You go and take rest. Patted Wine's head again, but he was surprised as his heart skipped a beat when Wine gave a soft kiss on his cheek and immediately backed away while smiling, seeing the surprised face of Jungkook, who touched his cheek. Wine, good night, was about to close the door, but Jungkook stopped Wine from closing it while entering the house. Wine was confused but surprised when Jungkook pulled her toward himself, holding her hand and hugging her, wrapping his arm around her slim waist, putting his face into her crook of neck. Wine could feel her heart almost stop from Jungkook's sudden action, but she smiled a little and hugged him back, wrapping her arms around his neck, putting her face into his shoulder. Jungkook smiled when Wine hugged him back and closed his eye while hugging her more tightly, feeling the warmth of his love. Wine also felt so many emotions in Jungkook's arm. Both just stayed like that without saying anything, feeling each other's presence. A few minutes later, Jungkook finally backed away from the hug and looked at Wine, who also looked back at him, and both could see the love in each other's eyes. They were holding for each other. JK, good night, he said softly while Wine also nodded her head slowly, and Jungkook cupped Wine's face with both hands, giving her a kiss on the forehead. Wine closed her eyes, feeling butterfly in her stomach, but looked at Jungkook when he backed away. JK, sleep well. Wine nodded her head slowly again. See you tomorrow. Wine bit her lips, nodded her head again, while both felt like they just wanted to stay with each other a little longer. But it was already late. Jungkook gave another kiss on Wine's forehead before leaving the house. He looked at her again, who was already looking at him. JK, close the door. Wine nodded her head but didn't close the door. Jungkook signaled her with his eyes to close it, but he was surprised when Wine came to him and hugged him all of a sudden. He smiled, feeling something warm in his heart, and hugged Wine back tightly. Wine, when you hug me, I feel like I am not alone anymore. I also have someone in my life. Jungkook felt his heart skip hearing those words from Wine and smiled while caressing her hair. JK, that's right. You have me and I will always be with you. Wine smiled with teary eyes and backed away from the hug, while Jungkook also looked at her, then cupped her face. JK, you said you would not hurt me, said while wiping the tears from Wine's eye, who smiled a little. Wine, I felt so emotional, so I couldn't control my tears. Jungkook also smiled a little, then gave a kiss on Wine's forehead again. JK, do not think about anything, just think about me and sleep well. Wine smiled even more while holding her head. JK, go. Wine nodded her head before going inside her house and looked at Jungkook, who waved his hand while Wine smiled, then closed the door. Jungkook let out a sigh sadly, like he didn't want to leave Wine, and he walked to his house with a bright smile on his lips, thinking about the way Wine hugged him suddenly and those words she said to him. It's evening, while Wine and Mio are playing football in front of Wine's house with smiles on their faces, but both looked at Grandma when she came out of the house. They were confused seeing a beautiful young girl also coming out of the house with Grandma. Mio, who is she? Wine, who knows? That girl went inside the car and drove away from there. Mio, oh, that car was her. Wine, nodded her head and smiled when Grandma walked to them. Grandma, my babies are playing? Mio, yes, Grandma. Grandma also smiled while nodded her head. Mio, who is she? Wine, Aish Mio, why do you need to know everything? Mio, because I want to know everything. Grandma chuckled. Grandma, let him, daughter, said to Wine, who shook her head with a small smile. Grandma, Mio, she is my grandson's girlfriend. Hearing that, Wine's smile vanished immediately as she felt something heavy in her heart, like she couldn't believe what she just heard. Wine, what? Asked in a cracked voice while looking at Grandma. Grandma, huh? Wine, she is Mr. Jeon's girlfriend. Grandma nodded her head. Mio, oh, she looks so beautiful, Grandma, but not more than my Nini. Grandma smiled, then nodded her head. Grandma, I agree. Mio smiled while both looked at Wine, who became all silent and was standing there like a statue, looking down. Mio, Nini, held Wine's shirt, who came back from her thoughts and took a deep breath. Wine, Mio, I need some notes to complete. We will play tomorrow. Bye, Grandma. Saying that, she immediately ran inside her house, not wanting them to see her teary eyes. Mio was confused and Grandma smirked a little. Mio, what happened to Nini? Grandma, someone is in love. Mio, what, Grandma? Grandma just shook her head. Oh, I'm also going then. Bye, Grandma. Waved her hand before running to her home, while Grandma also walked away with a smile on her face. Wine closed the door and fell back on it, feeling really hurt, while she still couldn't believe what she just heard. But why would Grandma lie to her? Wine, he really has a girlfriend? So he does not have any feelings for me? Tears started falling from her eyes continuously. Wine fell on her knees while crying. She just couldn't control herself after knowing Jungkook loved someone else. Wine, why? Why the hell did you do this to me? If you love someone else, then why did you make me fall in love with you? Yelled while crying her heart out. Why did you do this to me? Why me? Why? It's hurting. It's really hurting like hell. Covered her face with both hands while crying silently. It's night and Jungkook is now sitting in the living room while watching TV, but his mood is full of Wine's thoughts and a small smile formed on his lips. Should I go to meet her? Of course, I want to see her. Stood up from the sofa but looked at his grandma when she came there. Grandma, where are you going? JK, somewhere. Grandma smiled while sitting on the sofa. JK, what are you smiling about? Grandma, your love also really loves you. JK, huh? Wine? Grandma nodded her head. JK, did she say something to you? Grandma, no. After hearing you have a girlfriend, I noticed the pain in her eyes, and it means she really has a feeling for you. JK, excuse me? Girlfriend? Grandma nodded her head, then told Jungkook about what happened in the evening while Jungkook glared at his grandma a little. JK, what did you do, Grandma? She must be crying. Grandma, then go console her and also tell her about your feeling, or else she will not believe you. Jungkook just shook his head before running out from there while Grandma smiled. Grandma, sorry baby for making you cry, or else this idiot would not confess his feelings. Wine was sitting in the living room with a blank face, lost in her thoughts, but she looked at the doorway hearing the doorbell. She didn't go to open the door, knowing it must be Jungkook, while Jungkook continuously pressed the doorbell. Wine finally went to the door and opened it, hearing Jungkook continuously banging on the door, while Jungkook smiled at Wine, who just stared at him with a blank face. Wine, do you want something? Jungkook just shook his head and was about to enter Wine's house but stopped when Wine said, Wine, it's already late and I am living here alone, so it would not be good if you come inside. I can't let a stranger come into my house. Jungkook let out a sigh and went inside the house, while Wine raised her eyebrows. Wine, what are you doing, sir? Please go out. Jungkook kept walking forward toward Wine. Wine, Mr. Jun, she called while walking backward but stopped when her back hit the wall, while Jungkook pulled Wine toward him by her waist. Wine, what are you doing? Tried to push Jungkook, while Jungkook hugged Wine tightly all of a sudden, but Wine didn't hug him back. Mr. Jun, you... Shh, let me talk. Wine let out a sigh. Wine, please don't hurt me more, she said in a cracked voice while Jungkook hurt at hearing that. Then he pulled Wine more toward himself and hugged her tightly. JK, trust me, I have never ever loved someone else before. I only feel those kind of feelings after I meet you. Wine, you are my first love and you will be my last. He truly said while Wine felt something in her heart hearing Jungkook, then back away from the hug, and Jungkook also looked at Wine, who was looking at him with her teary eyes. Wine, why are you doing this to me? Jungkook cupped Wine's face with both hands, then looked at those teary eyes of his love, who also looked back into Jungkook's eyes. JK, don't you trust me? Wine just stared at Jungkook's eye, which showed her the whole world, and hugged Jungkook all of a sudden, while snuggling her face into Jungkook's chest. Jungkook smiled, then hugged Wine back tightly. Wine, why did Grandma say she is your girlfriend? JK, she wanted me to confess my feeling to you and make you my girlfriend. But I clearly told her I would only confess my feeling after your graduation because I do not want to disturb your studies. JK, but see what she did. She is really stubborn. Wine smiled with her teary eyes. Wine, don't worry, you will not disturb my studies. Jungkook also smiled, then kissed Wine on top of her head, who closed her eyes. JK, you really cried a lot? Wine nodded her head. JK, sorry. Wine, you did not do anything, and I'm okay now. Hugged Jungkook more tightly, who smiled, hugging Wine more and more tightly, while both were feeling each other warmth with their closed eyes. Minutes later, both back away, then looked at each other while Jungkook cupped Wine's face with both hands. Wine? I love you. Wine's heart skipped again hearing those three words from Jungkook's mouth and smiled. Wine, I love you. Jungkook also smiled, feeling something in his heart hearing these words from his love. Then he wiped the tears from Wine's eyes with his thumb and kissed her forehead. Wine closed her eyes, feeling Jungkook's lips on her forehead, but looked at Jungkook when he backed away and looked at her face. JK, will you be my girlfriend? Wine nodded her head while smiling more. Wine, I will. Jungkook smiled, then gave a kiss on Wine's cheek, and she felt butterfly in her stomach. Jungkook backed away and looked at Wine, who also looked at him, while both stared into each other's eyes with so much love. JK, love? Called in his raspy voice while Wayne felt her heart start beating really fast, like a bullet train, hearing the nickname from Jungkook's mouth for her, also in that voice, but she managed to hum in response. JK, can I? Wayne looked at Jungkook, who also looked up to her eyes while Jungkook smiled a little. Wayne nodded her head, and without wasting more time, they kissed each other. Second later, Wayne also lost herself in the moment and kissed him back with the same passion. Jungkook smiled a little through the kiss when Wayne kissed him back. His hand went down to Wine's waist and pulled her more toward him by her waist, kissing her more passionately. Minutes later, both backed away after sharing their first kiss and looked at each other, breathing a little heavily. JK, keep our relationship private until you graduate, okay? I do not want to make any trouble for you. Wine nodded her head. Wine, I will only tell Minho and Lena. Jungkook smiled a little, then gave a quick peek on Wine's lips. JK, okay. Wine, nodded her head. JK, so? Wine, so nothing. You can go back. It's already late. JK, I will go back after some time, said while hugging Wine, who smiled, then hugged Jungkook back and hummed in response, while both had a smile on their face. Next day, Jungkook entered the class and the first thing he did was look for his girlfriend, who was also looking at him with a smile. Jungkook passed a small smile to Wine before putting on his usual poker face. Lena and Minho also smiled seeing that, like Wine had already told them everything, and they were so happy for their best friend. Finally, the class ended and it was already lunch break, so everyone started leaving the class. Lena, let's go, Wine, said when she reached and Wine put her books inside her bag. Wine, coming. JK, Wine, I want to ask you something, so stay here. Hearing that, Wine looked at Jungkook, who was sitting on his chair. Wine, oh, okay. Minho, we will wait for you in the canteen. Saying that, he walked from there, holding Lena's hand, who smiled at Wine, while Wine shook her head. Every student had already walked out of the class, except Riya, who was glaring at Wine. Riya, sir, can you explain this to me? JK, sorry, I do not have any time now, he said, only looking at Wine, who was looking at Riya with a blank face. Riya also walked out of the classroom a little angry. Wine went to Jungkook, who also stood up from his chair. Wine, what? Jungkook raised his eyebrows. JK, why does my baby look angry? Wine, I do not like her, so stay away from her, she warned, and Jungkook smiled. JK, okay, I will, so don't worry. Saying that, he wrapped his hand around Wine's waist, who was surprised, then looked around but let out a sigh, not seeing anyone. Wine, someone will see us, leave me. Jungkook kissed Wine's cheek with his thumb. JK, no one is here, baby. Wine, hush Jungkook, pushed Jungkook, who smiled even more hearing his name from Wine's mouth for the first time, and he really loved it. Jungkook? Wine scratched her nip. Wine, sorry, JK, just call me that from now on. Wine smiled a little, then nodded her head. Wine, what did you want to ask me? Jungkook went to the door and closed it before turning around and looking at Wine, who raised her eyebrows. JK, a kiss? Wine shook her head, then came to Jungkook, who also wrapped his arm around Wine's slim waist when she reached him. Wine also wrapped her arm around Jungkook's neck, while both looked at each other with a small smile on their faces. Wine, you already kissed me in the morning. Jungkook raised his eyebrows. JK, you were not sleeping? Wine, I was, but I woke up when you continuously kissed me on my whole faces and lips. So, is this why you took my house key yesterday? I see, nodded her head in understanding, while Jungkook kissed Wine's cheek, finding her cute. Yes, so you were acting like you were sleeping after that. Wine smiled while nodded her head. Wine, I just didn't want to disturb you. Jungkook smiled, then gave a long wave on Wine's lips, who closed her eyes.